Hey guys, we're going to be concluding this chapter over expanding west and people heading out to Oregon country. And today we're going to be talking about the Oregon Trail. I've attached notes that I made for you guys based off these texts or this text to the assignment in Google Classroom, so feel free to refer back to those. I'm just going to kind of summarize here. You guys are going to be expected to go into clicking the Pearson website that I've attached to your assignment for social studies today, and you'll be expected to read through these slides just like we've been doing in answering the question. So, when the Oregon Trail, so the first white Americans to actually permanently settle in Oregon country were missionaries. And I want you to think back to what a missionary is and what they do. So, missionaries try to spread their religion, okay? So, in the 1830s, white Americans are going out to Oregon country to try to convert the Native Americans to Christianity. Some of the very first early settlers were Marcus and Narcissa, I think is how you pronounce that, Whitman. In 1836, they went out to Oregon country where they planned to, like I said, change and convert Native Americans to Christianity. They built their mission near the Columbia River and they began to work with the Cayuse Native American tribe. And one of the cool things that they did was they set up a mission school and a medical clinic. So after them, other missionaries were coming out there as well. People were eager to start going, missionaries were really eager to start going out to Oregon country after hearing all these awesome reports about how great the land was. And so more and more people, after they're hearing all these stories about this, abundant land, they're starting to think about moving to Oregon country. So as more and more settlers are coming out onto the Cayuse land, you guys can guess it, conflicts and fights arose and broke out. And with the white Americans coming over, they brought diseases. And one of the biggest things here is in 1847, measles, there was a measles outbreak and it killed a lot of the Cayuse children. So, in response to that, of their children dying because of the disease of measles being brought by these Americans, the Cayuse Indians attacked the mission and they actually ended up killing the Whitmans and 12 others. And I want to show you this real quick. If it will go. There we go. Here's a really good picture of the mission, which it says here was a major stopping point during the 1840s. They ran a medical clinic and they taught Bible classes to the locals, which were the Cayuse. Okay, so going on to Wagons Hole. So despite the killings, pioneers were still wanting to head out to Oregon country because, again, the stories they were hearing about, these abundant crops and this open land and everything. So they started calling this Oregon fever, that a lot of people are now wanting to make this trail to Oregon country. So in 1843, wagon trains left for Oregon country and they followed this route called the Oregon Trail. One of the major things I do want you guys to get from this also is that families that were going west met at a rendezvous point. Now, a rendezvous point is like a planned destination for people or location for people to meet at and then go to Oregon. So the rendezvous point, or where they all met, was Independence, Missouri. And they did this in early spring. The reason they wanted to get going by early spring was that they wanted to reach Oregon by early October before the snow. because remember, they're traveling in wagons. So once they got out of Independence, they formed these wagon trains. And each group of these wagon trains elected leaders to make decisions for that group. So because they were leaving in spring and they wanted to be there before October, the pioneers had to cover 2,000 miles in 5 months. And that may seem like a long time, but in the 1840s, traveling 15 miles a day was considered really, really good. Let me show you. Life on the wagon train. Okay, so on the trail, they woke up at as soon as the sun rose, and women and girls prepared food. Men and boys harnessed the horses and oxen, and by 6 a.m., they were on their way. They would stop one time for a meal in the afternoon, and then they would keep going on the trail till about 6 or 7 at night. One of the really cool things too is that wagons, when they stopped, would make a circle to make sure the cattle stayed where they needed them to stay. I wanted to show you this. Here's a picture of a wagon train, and you can see here it says that there's going to be about 20 to 40 wagons in a train. Although sometimes it could be a lot larger, but on average there was 20 to 40 wagons in a wagon train. Another thing is most pioneer families started the journey in independence with a lot of their belongings and possessions. And then along the way, to lighten the load, they would just leave and throw out their possessions to lighten their wagons. Life on the trail was really, really dangerous. So they risked drowning. They risked the, facing the heat in the plains. Snows could block their passing through the mountains. The biggest threat, though, on these wagon trains, because there were so many people living so close together, you guys guessed it, disease spread quickly. And once a disease start and spread to the whole train, it could wipe out the entire train. So all the people that were on and involved in that train could die, potentially. I want to show you this interactive. Here's a map of the Oregon Trail. You can see where it started in Missouri, and following the red trail there, you can see kind of the route they took. One of the assignments you're going to be doing also with this is analyzing this map, and reading about it, and comparing it to travel today, but I'll get to that in just a second. So once they reached the Rockies, the pioneers often came into contact with Indians, and when they did that, they would trade. So the Indians would give them food, and then the pioneers would give them clothing and tools in exchange. So once they hit Oregon country, more than 50,000 people actually reached Oregon between 1840 and 1860. And their wheels, what I want to show you right here is here's the actual wheel ruts of the wagons that are still in the ground, that you can still see on the Oregon Trail. So that's kind of cool. And from our lesson yesterday, the Americans and British yesterday decided to split equally the land in Oregon country, but by the 1840s, there were way more Americans than there were British pioneers. So the Americans wanted Oregon country for themselves, for the United States alone. So your question that you're going to answer at the end of this is, what was the main goal of the Whitmans? Okay, so you'll answer that. Make sure that's turned into me today. And then your other two activities, this is kind of cool, is the covered wagon. And so I'll just quickly go over the directions here. If you drag your cursor, no, this is going to load. Hold on. It's not going to do it. Oh, there you go. If you drag your cursor, You can see inside the wagon, and you guys will be able to do this. It's kind of cool looking inside there. You can see there's not a lot of room in the wheels themselves. And then you'll work your way through these slides. So if you look at the bottom right corner, you're going to see one of four. So you'll click the arrow. And here is one of the activities you're going to do. So you're going to be comparing traveling then in the 1840s to now. So looking at this answer bank, you have headlights, hay for animals, bedrolls, roadside restaurants, paper maps, gasoline for cars, motors, campfires, lanterns, GPS. So you're going to use this answer bank and then type your answers under if it was used then in the 1840s or if it's used now. And then you'll go to the next slide, if I can get it. And you're going to type up a short paragraph using the organizer you just did to tell how technology has changed the way people traveled. Okay, so talking about how, we can use GPSs, we have maps, we have cars, we have, so how has that changed the way that we travel? And then you have another multiple choice question here. So once they arrived, how might they have replenished their supplies? So this isn't really directly in the text. I want you just to infer, think about it, what we just talked about, and then how do you think that they would replenish their supply? So that's one of the activities. And then the last activity you're going to do today is the interactive map on the Oregon Trail. And I just want to show you the instructions here. So this is saying that the Oregon Trail is 2,000 miles. And they want you to select the images to learn more about the Oregon Trail and the people who traveled on it. So what you'll do is, if I can get that back up, you'll hit one of these and it's going to pop up and give you some information. I do want you to hit all these images and read about these. And then again, if you look at the bottom right corner here, you're going to work your way through these slides. Let me try to, there we go. So again, you're using a word bank on the left. You have oxen, current, Snake River, Rocky Mountains Bridge, wagons, Native Americans, trade, steamship, and wheels. And you have to fill in these sentences. So you'll type in your answer in the box. And then once that's complete, you'll go to the next. It will go. There we go. And again, another multiple choice question here. The reason the pioneers formed into wagon trains was most likely why? Why would they form the trains? And then settlers preparing to head out to the Oregon Trail felt that it was important to do what? What would they want to find important about settling out there? And that's going to be information you're going to get through the the first slide, kind of going through and hitting those images again, okay, and making sure you're reading through each of those. And then quickly, so that's your social studies for today. And then quickly, I just want to show you what we're doing for religion. And it's just a Pope Francis tweet. So I took this tweet from Pope Francis from Tuesday, which he highlighted the gospel of the day, which was from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 24, verses 13 to 35. And it teaches us that two opposite directions are set before us in life. The path of those who let themselves be paralyzed by disappointments and trudge along sadly. Then there's the path of those who put Jesus and others before their own problems. So what I want you to be thinking about and reflecting on is, what does this mean to you? What does this passage mean to you? I want you to create a paragraph with at least 5 sentences explaining this gospel and how you can apply it to your daily life. Again, make sure you're putting in there how you can apply it to your life. What does it mean to you? As always, if you guys have questions, please feel free to email me, text me. I'm here to help you. I miss you guys, and I will talk to you all soon. Have a great day.